Yo, what's going on, guys? Koi here. Today, we're going to be talking about just pretty much a tier list of what is usable right now before this new balance update comes out. This is going to be straight to the point. What characters should you have? What characters should you not have? Stuff like that. What characters should you evo? What characters should you not evo? I get a lot of people asking what characters are up to date, what characters are good. So now it's time that we get into it with this type of format. This does not disregard anyone's opinion on characters. This is just purely where I look at it. Like, where do you get the most worth in usability out of a unit? Whether you're in the early game to the very end game. Now, I think I'm going to get the most obvious ones out of the way before we truly get started. We're going to get Darth Vader up there, obviously, Palpatine up, obviously, and then just any secret unit we know is going to end up getting updated in the future either way to make sure that it catches up with the meta. That's just the way that secret units work, you know what I mean? And if they want to really boost it, they'll end up, I don't know, like setting something up to where it even is greater than it was before. So, yeah, that's just, incredibly important to indicate. Now, there are some characters here that have good AoE, and then there's some characters that have good line AoE, and then there's some characters that just have really good dot. Not dot. What do you call it? Circle AoE, which is like not bad. But there's a lot of characters here that kind of fall under only because of SPA or damage in general. We'll be talking about those right now. I think that Jedi is entirely unusable. It's probably one of the slowest characters in the game. Does like 10 damage a second, and that's like that's you're giving it your all. That's like not even worth it. Whenever there's characters here who do that but more, and you can put down more of them, and it's just Jedi just does not do it. Commando, one of those characters that actually does fall into the early game only category too, might be playable. I've seen some people get some ridiculous traits on Commando and actually make him slightly viable, but I don't think that he's incredibly viable for the end game, which makes him not exactly playable in the end game, only in the early game. A character that I do consider entirely playable is definitely going to be these guys. With the right SPA, with the right talents, these heavy troopers could end up dealing out like 500 to 1000 DPS a second. It's crazy. Like, these dudes are actually very good at high level, very useful, and they're very fast too for a line AOE a line character. Very useful. One of the ones that I consider probably the worst legendary in the game is probably this guy. The guard, I'm gonna be real, is probably the slowest and the weakest character in the legendary category. Not exactly incredibly good. Not good enough to where it's gonna be usable. These guys are just too slow, and they just don't do enough damage, and that's just where you're at. Obviously, R2D2, I forgot to put a farm category, honestly. I wish I did before starting, but it's alright, I guess. We'll just say that he's worth an Evo, which is kind of funny, but, he's a farm character. You don't have to level him up. You could get wealth on him if you wanted to. Is it necessary? Not exactly. He's viable in every style of play. Very good. Keep in mind, a lot of these characters, they do seem pretty good, and then they kind of fall off in one way or another. It just is what it is. Captain Rex, definitely worth his Evo. Cheapest Evo in the game, absolutely destructive. If you're a new player, you have to get Captain Rex. He's just up there, very useful, and very strong. There is this one character that they do want to be viable. They want him to be viable. I don't know if he is yet, because I honestly have not gotten this guy, so it's like maybe playable. But if I consider him the same way I consider him, which is just like too slow for combat, and the DPS just isn't there, especially whenever they just do circle attacks and stuff like that. It's not really crazy. Um, Kiadi Mundi, the Jedi, like a lot of the Jedi from the Order are actually very viable, and I see a lot of people using this green guy, which is very cool. So I think that these guys are totally playable. If you guys don't agree with this one, you can let me know down below if you don't agree with this one. I think that he's the only one who's kind of the outlier here. for maybe playable, maybe not. Um, yeah. So yeah, that's just playable characters that are like, you know, not mythics or anything like that. Because obviously every mythic in the game is playable. We got Ahsoka Squadron. I think early game only as well. I don't really like the Ahsoka Squadron as much, just because they have a slightly fast circle damage attack, which is just not really crazy. It's just, you know, it's pretty minuscule compared to like what you get out of Heavy Trooper, where you get a lot more out of Heavy Trooper. Officer, I like Officer. Imperial Officer is really cool, but I think that it's like a very early game only character, and even at that, there's characters that really outshine the Officer very early. The new Scout Trooper, kind of not really usable. This one is Coruscant Guard, I believe, which is, he's fast. I like how fast he is. He's very early game only. Rifle Trooper, Rifleman, very fast, early game only. Soldier does less damage than both of these guys, sadly. And Scout also is in that category of might be playable, early game only. But Soldier just has too much SPA to make him viable, because he does like one big attack, but his DPS is still lower than all these other guys, which is pretty sad, especially for the character that's like, you know, it's supposed to be the soldier. This guy, circle damage just doesn't really do too much, really. Not really too crazy. Now we're kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of the tier list, which is like characters that are in that category of could be worth, could not be worth. Right now, as of this moment, it's guaranteed that Darth Maul is getting a buff this update, but keep in mind he's also very good because he has the fastest SPA out of most of the mythics in the game, making him very useful as either a starter character or an end game character, just that does fast, good damage. Very, very useful character. Doesn't have that stupid 9-second SPA. His goes down to like 4.4, and that's with the trait that I have, which is Star Killer. I'm not going to be talking about traits whenever I talk about characters, but some characters already have a low enough SPA to make them very useful. He's faster than most of the Jedi, and that makes him very, very useful and very worth an Evo, even without his buff that he should be getting. There's some sad characters here that kind of fell off during this meta. Like, you don't get a lot Evoing Master Yoda. It's not really worth it right now. He's kind of slow. Revan just doesn't do enough damage even with an Evo. Mandalorian, same category, just not really worth Evoing at this time. Until we get to see some like actual buffs, maybe he'll be kind of worth Evoing. Commander Cody, honestly, worth an Evo because of his damage. Even probably more worth in, like, than Darth Maul. The damage isn't significant, but it's still faster than a lot of characters in the game. He's kind of like Darth Maul, but he does more damage than Darth Maul, and he could be a very, very valuable asset because his DPS is over 1,000 something, which is very good compared to these guys who kind of fall off in that DPS category. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I do not know if he's worth Evoing as of this moment, because I feel like he might get buffed. Because this is Obi-Wan Kenobi. As of this moment, he's just not strong enough compared to these guys. But I would also, just because of his damage, how fast he is compared to other characters, I'd still put him up there. Like, for instance, he does more damage than Darth Maul and stuff like that, which is very, very cool. Very broken. So, I mean, he's just a better Darth Maul as of this moment before Darth Maul gets his buff. Luke Skywalker, triple the price of every other unit in the game, but not worth the Evo. Because, you know, you put so much into this guy. You could buy both of their Evo crystals and maybe even still have enough to buy the red holocron, and still you wouldn't be able to afford this Evo, because this Evo costs quite a bit. You know, you're talking about 4,500 gems each piece, and you need 3. It's a lot of gems, not including what you need to get the guy, the fact that he hasn't been buffed yet. His SPA is atrocious. He's so slow, it's criminal. Like, he's dirt slow. He's very bad. Because his DPS could be in the thousands, right? It is in the thousands. But he's so slow that he misses most of the main targets when these guys are, you know, doing all the work. So Clone Wars is looking really good right now, I can't lie. And when people talk about categories, I think that like Empire, Clone Wars is going to be like some of the best like categories in the game, obviously, that probably are going to get the most love. But like New Hope, Jedi Order, Old Republic, Mandalorians, probably cooked right now unless they get some updates. There's like a lot of issues with these characters being too slow, not doing enough damage. So yeah, that pretty much does it though. Jedi Order, I think that legendaries just are playable, so that makes them very useful. But a lot of the legendaries could be a lot better. For instance, the guard could be a lot better, a lot faster, a lot more useful. Right now, he's not useful at all. He's actually too slow to do enough damage. And you could put him up against a lot of characters. They just will outclass him. Ki-Adi-Mundi is better. Like, all the Jedi Order is going to be much better. Heavy Trooper is amazing. You know, freaking... these guys not really worth it. Luke might be worth it later. But yeah, it's looking like Clone Wars Empire is really coming up. So we'll see what happens next update. All right, see you guys when that update drops. Peace.